time for another edition of the ITF Flowcast. This week, we get to interview Allison Hester. It's a really nice interview. I know you're going to enjoy it. But first, we just wanted to thank everyone who took part in the auction last week to help Tommy Cooper. It went really well. We know we had a little snafu with the auction, but the results were really good. And so we know Tommy and his family want to express their thanks to you and everyone who participated in it. But now we're going to get you right into the interview. Thanks again. You guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Flow on. All right, Flowmies. Well, thanks so much. It's nice to have you with us here. It's another ITF Flowcast, and this time we're going to be talking with Allison Hester. Hi, Allison. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for making the time. We really appreciate it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You've been pretty active in the ITF group, and it'd be nice for people to kind of get to know your background and what you do right now, as far as for work, and then just how you got into the industry.
Yeah, sure. I actually started more with the pressure washing industry back in 1994. I've always been a writer for the industry, so I'm a little bit different. But I was 24 years old, and I had gotten laid off from an ad agency and was desperate for work. And that was back before the internet. So I answered an ad in the newspaper for a magazine editor and went and applied, went out to interview. And it was for a pressure washing magazine, which this was back before pressure washers were in Home Depot and things like that. So I didn't even know really what a pressure washer was. And of course, it was before the internet. And I remember leaving and thinking, there is no way I want to write about pressure washers for a living. But I ended up getting the job. And that was with Cleaner Times magazine back in 1994. And I worked there for 4 years and then left and did some corporate communications type work, and then left and had kids and worked freelance. And then I went back to work for Cleaner Times part-time back in, I guess it was around 99, 98, 99. Is that right? No, I'm sorry. That would be right. Anyway, I went back to work. This was when social media had started, and I was working part-time for them. And for the first time, I was able to get online and kind of see what people were interested in. And that was back when the bulletin boards,
were
like a big deal. And I could see, instead of just guessing, because before we communicated by phone and eventually by email, but that was about it. So I suggested to them that they let me take on social media, and also suggested some topics for them, and they weren't interested.
Yeah.
They had their, list of things that they wanted me to write about. And I just felt like there was a need. So I broke off and started my own magazine called EClean.
Okay. Yeah,
which,
I heard that.
I started in 2000. I'm getting my years confused. 2011. So I went to work for them in 2008. That's right. Okay. That makes more sense. Okay. So 2011, I started my own magazine, and I did that I sold it in 2019.
Okay.
Because I found out I'm a good writer, but I don't like running a business.
Yeah.
I don't like the business side. Yeah.
Are you still writing now?
I'm writing I work for J. Ray Stein part-time. Right? Yep.
Gotcha,
I do them, work for them part-time. And then I've gotten where I do some stuff for some, I get to do some cool freelance projects for other industries as well. Oh, nice. So, yeah.
So had you gone to school for writing? Is that why you got into that back in 94?
Yeah. I gone to school. My third grade teacher is who I always credit for writing. She's the one that encouraged me to start off, to become a writer. And so I went to school. I actually got a degree in radio, TV, film because I wanted to make A's watching movies, which, but I minored in writing, and I had a focus in writing. And so I worked in advertising right out of college. And then they lost their big client and had to lay everybody off, and the rest is history. So
yeah, you brought back so many memories. When I was in college, that was right at the start of the internet. And so, like you said, we didn't really have too much of the internet. We had the intranet,
right? Yeah,
kind of like an interior network for. I went to the University of Arizona, and that's how we would communicate, is amongst each other in there. In fact, there would be even little groups that were smaller that you would communicate, like classrooms or whatever. And it was all message board. That's all it was. It was just message type, and they had, people would play games online. Like, it's not like the games now, but like
Right.
a role playing games and all this stuff. And it was just, man, it was so hard to pull up a web page back then too, with the
Oh yeah.
modem, the the hardline
Yeah.
modem. Yeah. And I remember we go to computer lab, and it was just DMs. All you do is DM all day with all these people, and or go on message boards and post things and share information that way. So I mean, it's come a long way. But you're saying that what was the first magazine that you wrote for? The
Cleaner Times.
Cleaner Time. So they were
Yeah,
not
and they're
interested
still
in
around.
anything. They were not interested in anything online at
Not
that
at the time. Yeah, they had their list of, they wanted me to write about pumps or those types of things. And the other thing that I saw, and I guess we'll probably get into this, is that that people were crossing over, which they hadn't done when I first started. But it wasn't just pressure washing anymore.
Right.
Window cleaning guys were getting into pressure washing, vice versa. Then soft washing was coming along, and and that was the other thing that I was seeing happening that wasn't being tackled by anybody.
So. It's interesting. It's very common. It's very prevalent now. There's a lot of guys, they just kind of do everything. They've got Nando Medina, one of the admins,
Right.
he does a lot of stuff, and he's like one of those guys that's like, hey, if I can figure out how I'm going to do it,
Right.
And same thing with Luis as well. And so that attitude is like, it's pretty prevalent now. But when I was coming up, I mean, you were a window cleaner. That's what you did. I didn't have any interaction with any soft washers, pressure washers, anything even ancillary to window cleaning. It was like we were just window cleaners. It wasn't really till I joined the IWCA that I kind of started mixing with other people who did other things, and I saw that you could kind of do kind of a multiple. And I tried branching out, but I'm very much a focused business person. I like to do one thing. I don't like to have all these other things. I tried a couple things, and I like kind of keep it as simple as possible. Yeah.
Well, and it was interesting because my first IWCA, it was either 94 or 95 in New Orleans. And we went as Cleaner Times. Again, no internet, so people didn't know who we were, but we went to see if window cleaners might be interested in getting into pressure washing. Well, they weren't. It was not it. So
like, are you supposed to spray the windows with this? What's
they weren't really. It was like, why would a pressure washing magazine that be at a window cleaning event, so it's been interesting to see the evolution of several things.
So was EClean, was that devoted to window clean, or was it just the cleaning industry in general?
It was, I call it started out pressure washing mostly because that was my background, but quickly got into, I considered it anything that was exterior cleaning. So it got into, window cleaning and pressure washing, gutter cleaning, and then soft washing. As well as if you would I do a few things on like chandelier cleaning, which is not exterior, but that kind of stuff.
Did that feel freeing then once you had your own magazine and you can kind of pick what you wanted to write?
Oh, it did. Yeah, it was fun getting to do whatever I wanted, as far as, and I'm bad at planning a lot of times, which in some ways was good. Advertisers want you to plan because they want to know what's going to be in there, but I like to watch social media and see what was happening and try to make it relevant, to whatever was happening at the time.
Of course.
And it was a digital magazine primarily, so that allowed me a lot of freedom as well.
So what was your circulation like?
Well, it's hard to say because it was digital, but my list is around 10,000 or was.
Wow, that's pretty good.
So yeah.
How many writers did you have?
I did it all.
You did the whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And my cat just jumped up. Sorry.
You're gonna need cleaners right now.
Yeah. No, I would recruit people that wanted to volunteer. I never paid anybody to do any writing. But yeah, I built some background in design work as well when I was off doing my corporate communications job for about 10 years. And so I did all of it.
And was it a monthly magazine?
It started out that way.
And you said that lasted about 9 years?
Yeah, well, I think eight, I guess, 2011. I actually started it with another person as a partner, and it didn't work out. And I
Gotcha.
changed the name of it. And then I had another partner, and I bought it that helped me financially get it going. And then I bought it from him a year later. So,
I see. Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what was your interaction? Because when you moved into Jay Racenstein, they hired you specifically for writing, or are you just kind of a salesperson in general?
No, I do writing. They're creating a new library of information, and then I do some other stuff. I've gotten to do some cool stories, like Carlos Gonzalez let me do his bio that he'd never shared with anybody in the industry. And then Pat Clark from Gutter Butter had a really cool story, and he let me do that. And so I'm doing, some of those things. And back before COVID, I had a email column that I would send out once a week, that kind of stuff as well. So.
Very cool. So you said you got involved with the IWCA, you said mid 90s, or 2000s?
Yeah, I started with Cleaner Times in 94, and IWCA was one of the first ones I went to. But that was in March. So I don't know if it was 94 or 95, but I went to that one, and then I went again, maybe 2012. It was in St. Pete.
Okay.
Was the next one that I went to after I started EClean. I was invited to come out, and I think I've missed two since.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So you've probably seen a lot of changes then. It's been about almost 10 years now that you've been in kind of this second quarter. So what were some of the things that you've noticed and observed in the IWCA?
With the IWCA, I missed one of the West ones, and then I came back to, I guess it was Orlando the next year, and it was like night and day to me how much, not that it was ever bad, but just how much the association was doing, and the quality of the educational things that they had, and the safety program. And I just feel like they're an organization that's really taking it seriously and does more than just an annual convention too. It was just really, like I said, night and day seeing and not that it was ever bad. It was just kind of like every other organization that I belonged to, or that I attended. But I think they really are doing some cool things.
Excellent. So what roles have you had? Have you just been a member, or have you been involved in different committees or anything like that?
No, we talked about possibly putting me on I don't know if there's a communications committee, but something along those lines at one point. I've done a little bit of work for the PWNA in the past, but I haven't for IWCA. So
how would you compare IWCA with the pressure washing portion of it, or the?
I think they're both good, and I think they both kind of work well together as far as that goes. IWCA, I see them doing more, and I haven't looked at the website lately, but I know they had some online training and things like that. I haven't looked at PWNA's, and IWCA does more like working with OSHA and those types of things, more advocacy type things, I guess. I just felt like they really provided a lot for their members, but PWNA's growing quite a bit too.
I was tossing the idea around of joining it. I have a couple guys who have pressure washing background in my company I just hired, and they were asking if we were willing to do that. And I'm just like, man, I don't know if I'm putting a bunch of money into my pure water system right now, and I'm building an enclosed trailer, and I'm getting my trucks right. I just got a new truck, so I'm like, I don't know if I really want to throw any more money at that I don't even have any type of infrastructure to go. I'd be starting from scratch, and I don't have any advertising for it. I don't have any, it's just like, I don't think I'm ready to do that yet. Maybe in the future, if everything's kind of settled and we've got steady income coming, that I can afford to throw some towards advertising budget on there, but
Yeah, well, and
um,
they have even with they have their certification classes, and one of the things I think it was Ty Eubanks that said he went and took the kitchen exhaust cleaning
hmm,
class and realized quickly that he went and did the certification class and realized quickly that he wasn't interested
mm-hmm.
in going that route. And for him, spending a little bit of money to discover that as opposed to going into it and then realizing it was a mistake,
Yeah,
that was a
absolutely.
huge
Yeah.
advantage for them.
It's funny you
Um,
say that. I have a lot of people telling me I should do that too, because I have about, I used to clean grease traps. So I
oh,
did
okay.
that for about 8 years, 8, 9 years, and it's
Oh, okay.
different in the sense that, grease traps are totally separate thing, but it's messy work, just like the cleaning of the
Hmm.
hoods and everything, and it's smelly. And, you use pressure, a pressure washer, everything to clean it out too. And I just was like, I already did it for 8 years. I don't think I want to, just because it's a little
Done,
different.
yeah.
I don't think I want to get back into that, and
Yeah, right.
the whole hassle of having to, work at night and be there in the
Yeah.
restaurant when no one's there. And, uh, just the thought of it, I'm starting to get, start getting chills. I'm like, no, I can't do that
Yeah.
again. No, I put that
Yeah.
behind.
No, yeah, there's kitchen exhaust is a good, a good industry, but it's definitely kind of their own
It
thing.
is.
It's a different breed, for lack
It
of a better
is.
word.
And the thing I found too, and I'm sure it's very similar with the hood cleaning, as with the grease trap cleaning, is it's a limited market. So you've got X number of restaurants in your town. You probably have an X number of companies that do the hood cleaning, and it is just now everybody fighting for those jobs, and that's the way it was with the grease trap. I mean, it was kind of, I wouldn't say it was cutthroat, because at least the guy who I worked for, he didn't care, He's like, they want to drop me, they can drop me, because he was the number one in our market. So he was like, they want to undercut me, go ahead, they can have the little ones. I have my big accounts, those are the ones I'm going to protect. But I, coming from a residential background like myself, where there's just so many residential, so much jobs out there. I just hate to get back into where now I'm fighting for these X number of jobs that exist.
Right. Yeah.
And because I already kind of do that with the commercial, with my commercial window cleaning, and I take the same attitude as my other boss. I'm just like, you know what, if they're willing to pay me, I'll do them. If otherwise, they can go somewhere else and make paid cheaper
Right.
rates, and I'm just not going to make that part of my headache, because
Right.
I just hate
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, it's not
Well,
worth the effort,
I
for
know
sure.
one thing the PW&A always has is their, I don't, it's people that companies that make 1 million or more, bring in 1 million or more, but they always talk about the sweet spot too. And it's like, you have to figure out, a lot of times it's not worth
Yeah.
growing bigger. And if that would be the situation with you having to take something on, if you're doing well,
Yeah.
and it's not more profitable necessarily to take on more.
Exactly.
So,
Now
yeah.
there is a kind of a breaking through the wall period, and I discovered this because when I first started growing, I hit that I felt like I was leaving the sweet spot. And so I ended up growing, and then I cut back because I felt like I was working harder and either making exactly the same amount of money for myself or less, So I went back, and then the amount of customers had forced me to kind of break down that wall. So I went through it, and then once I broke through it, it took a little muscling, but once I got to the other side, then I started, okay, now I'm working less, now I have a little bit more freedom, and I'm making more money, and then so I know there's going to come another wall, and then I'm going to have to decide, where am
Right.
I going to want to
Yes.
go through the hassle of breaking through that one, or I'm just going to stay here. Right now
Right.
I like where I'm at right now,
Right. Yeah.
and I'm going to kind of settle down. My goal right now is pay off debt, get everything paid off, so the business doesn't have any debt. Then I can
Good.
kind of reevaluate whether, what I want to do after that. But I'm
Right.
pretty happy where I'm at right now. I don't know that I'm really looking to grow anymore than what I already have, for sure.
Yeah.
But you make a good point, Allison, about the education part, and I think this is something that at ITF we're really trying to get across. The education isn't just in the certification; It's in
Right.
the, like you said, the finding out, is this even for me? Is this a route that I want to go to? And yeah, you pay maybe 400, $500, but how much better is that than paying $6,000 in
Right.
equipment? And now
Yeah.
you're kind of forced to continue in that work that now you realize you don't even like.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I thought it was a good point that
Yeah.
he made. So
Yeah.
that
And
tie.
you get to talk to people in the field who actually do it and can
Oh
kind of tell
yeah.
you, hey, look, if you're going to do this, these are the things you're going to have to deal with. This is, are you willing to go through that, down this road, and feel like you're happy with that, so that's a good point.
Yeah, and that's always the biggest value I think for any of these associations and especially the events is you got there's good classes and all that, but just getting to sit down one-on-one with people in the industry and because you don't get to do that in the all that much in the real world. People
Yeah.
don't want to but to be able to talk and find out the ins and outs and decide if this is what you want to do or how to go about doing it or what they've done wrong
Yeah.
that they learned from so you don't have to make those same mistakes.
Yeah, it's hard, man, because you start talking about something work wise, and then you just see your family and friends, or eyes just start rolling over, like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
you can actually
Yep.
talk to people who care about it and
Yeah,
know what you're talking.
exactly.
I think
Yeah.
that's really cool about these groups. Not just ITF, but pro window cleaning, Windows 101, and all those that have their various Facebook groups. I think it's kind of
Oh,
cool.
absolutely.
You
Yeah.
can you can just share and commiserate with each other and say
Yeah.
something, and you're not going to get a blank look back, but you're going to get
Right.
people who
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of fascinating that you started writing in a magazine that you knew nothing about. So what was your strategy then? Because you had to put out words, right? You had a certain amount of word count that you had to meet for each article, and here's a field that you really never worked in and didn't have any experience. So what was your strategy to be able to put something together that was,
Back when I very first
yeah.
started this, um, I don't know if being female helped, but I was able to call up, like I would call up pump manufacturers, and I wasn't playing dumb because I was dumb. I didn't know anything, but I could get away with it a little better. Like, I don't know anything about pumps, just teach me, and
Yeah.
just to be able to just call up and admit that I didn't know anything and had to record the phone calls in the days. Of course, there wasn't cell phones or
Right.
any of that kind of stuff, but just started with that. And the magazine had been around, it hadn't been maybe just like 2 years or something when I started.
Mhm.
But enough that I could go back and read through some things. But the main thing was just they had a list of contacts and just having them walk me through stuff and
Sure.
having them double check whatever I wrote to make sure it was, correct. And
See, I think that's really smart. I have we have a social media person that works for us, and she's awesome. Her name is Ava. She's really just stepped up our social media game like to another level. She's great, but she doesn't have a background in window cleaning.
right.
And so sometimes she'll post something and I'll like say, take it down. That's not, it doesn't work in our
Right.
industry. Take it down now,
Yeah.
because it's going to make us look like, we don't know what we're talking about. But she's really good about it. And she's got, as time has gone, she's starting to learn, and she's gone on job sites to watch us and observe. And now she's starting to kind of hit her stride where she feels like she has a little bit more of an understanding of what the work we do. So I think that's a really neat idea for you to have called the actual manufacturers or other companies and trying to get their input on it. So as years went on, you're writing and in this industry, how did you feel your understanding of it came? Like, did you ever feel like you could actually go to a company and not work as a pressure washer, but maybe work in like admin or anything like that?
I feel like I could work in admin, but even now, the idea of setting up a pressure washer, as much as I've written about it, go out there and actually do it, I still, I would need a little help, I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to classes, I've been, various training events and things like that, but the idea of it's kind of scary. So
Is it? See, if I were you, I would just go do it just to say I could do it.
yeah, absolutely.
Go to
Yeah.
friends and say, I'm just going to mess around with this for half an hour. Just let me play and I'm going to see if I can
Right.
figure it out,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. And that had to have been very valuable to Jay Racenstein when they knew you had all that background in writing,
Yeah.
on that.
Well, and I was just thinking, even when you said that, trying to at the IWCA at the where Ed Ray, where he would have the training with the squeegee, that's hard.
Mhm,
I tried to
mhm.
do it, and of course, everybody's watching, but it's just like that's hard. It's an art, and you got to learn it, and so
Yeah. So you're saying you're not going to enter any speed racing competitions?
not yet. No.
Not yet. But you've seen a lot though, right? I think you had mentioned you even went to Italy and saw speed racing
Yeah, I
competitions.
got to go to Italy twice for
Oh,
free.
oh my goodness.
um, yeah, they it's a show over in Italy, and Italy has a program where their government pays for people from different countries to come over to trade shows. And they called me originally. 2017 was the first one I got to go to. They were looking for a journalist in the cleaning industry,
Oh,
and I had like 3 weeks to
do they
go, but
still
it was
do
all
that?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I write for
Well,
the
I don't know if they do
American.
with COVID, but they did it again in
Right.
2019. And this time, so I guess I found out what happens is they don't get their budget till right before. They don't know for sure which
Uh,
ones the government's paying for. So
uh-huh.
they needed some people. So I contacted some friends that I in the industry that I knew had passports already. And like
Oh,
2 weeks out, we went to Italy last in
oh
2019
man. Well,
and
let me
stayed
tell
a
you,
few days.
if I get to do that, because I write for the American
Yeah.
Window Cleaner magazine,
Oh yeah.
my wife you will be her best friend because she's been wanting to go to Italy forever. And
Oh
she
yeah.
keeps saying,
That's
you're
amazing.
gonna take me there one day. And I'm like, okay, okay.
Yeah.
That would be so sweet if I could go as a
Well, get your
journalist,
passport
a
ready.
journalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, get our
Get your
passports
passport
ready.
ready. And yeah, but I mean, it's crazy that because it was one of those things. I got the email and it looked like a hoax, and I was about a free, but I called just to ask, and sure enough, it was legit. So
Sweet.
yeah, so it was in Verona, Italy, and um,
Very cool, man.
everything paid.
You got the hookups. I gotta make sure I keep touch with Allison. She knows all the foodies here.
Yeah, I mean, really, I had several, like I said, several industry friends ended up getting to go last time. But it was neat because they bring people from different countries, and like
Hmm.
they took us to this really fancy restaurant the first night, and it was someone's birthday. They had us sitting at our different tables by country, but it was someone's birthday, and they sang happy birthday in like 5 different languages going around the room. We'd all been drinking tons of wine, but it was just really beautiful and just really, amazing that we were there and it was paid for, and
Yeah,
it was real.
very
So,
cool.
but all that to say, yes, they had the speed contest going on both times
Hmm.
there. They didn't have the Guinness people there, but they did have the speed contest, and I sat and watched that.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, um I guess this year they're only going to have this the main speed, and they'll have the medley, but not the team medley.
Oh, okay.
So because they're trying to keep everyone 6 feet apart whenever they do
Sure.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I still haven't committed yet to going yet. I entered the contest last year, and I didn't do very well, but I did better than I thought I was. I guess I would
Yeah.
if had to say that. But me and Joel Lamb, we did the team medley, so we were anxious to try it again this year because we didn't know what we
Oh,
were doing. We just went there
yeah.
and started. We didn't understand the rules or
Yeah.
nothing. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to wait till the year after that. But yeah, we're not going to be doing any international traveling for sure, and barely in-state traveling if needed.
Yeah. Well, and when you mentioned the medley, the first or the Guinness thing, the first convention IWCA back in 94, 95, that was the first thing I saw when I was there. And it was like there were teams from Japan and
Mm,
other European countries, as well as I know Puerto
yeah,
Rico sometimes comes, but yeah, it was like really cool.
yeah. From what I understand now, it's that big convention in England, which is now kind of the
Uh,
international hub. Yeah, it
okay.
shifted from the United States to over there. So now, because I don't know if you've heard Jeremiah Hickey's interview. He was the very first podcast that we did.
Okay.
And if you get a chance, listen to him because he's got a fantastic story of when he won, and then he got to go overseas
Oh wow.
and compete
Yeah.
over there. And it's a really, really cool story. But yeah, he said that it's like nuts. It's like Super Bowl like caliber
Oh yeah, I
uh,
bet. Yeah.
uh, notoriety over there. He got interviewed on a local what is it, Good Morning, show, type thing over
Yeah.
there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's got a cool story on that, but that's fun. Well, one thing I do like to ask, especially since you've got such a long history in the industry, in general,
Right.
how is your experience as being a female in a male dominated industry? How has it kind of borne out for you personally?
Yeah. Of course, my role has been a little bit different, but and I think that has put me in a interesting position because um, starting back with Cleaner Times, for example, I had a column in the
Mhm.
in the thing, and people. I kind of built a little fan base with that. So,
Hmm.
um, in my role, it's always been being a woman in the industry has almost been beneficial. I think I've been well accepted overall, well respected.
Mhm.
I've always had going to events. I always have friends that are men that look out for me to make sure keep me safe or whatever. But yeah, I've never had any negative experiences personally, but I've also seen the industry grow quite a bit for
Mhm.
women. It's always been there some, but it seems like it's coming more to the forefront.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's fantastic to see more and more women that are out
Mhm.
there doing the actual cleaning or running these
Yes.
big
Running their own
companies.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, and there were a few of those when I first started, but it was few and far between,
Yeah.
and
I
now
think
it's
I think like Brandy Harper is a really nice example of that, of what she's been able to build with Halo window cleaning, and her involvement with IWCA as well is pretty impressive. Everything that
yeah.
she's been able to do, but also just the smaller companies. Like I
Hmm.
got to interview Heather Ryder. She's a really neat example of someone who's able to just start her business and just it's like she's a window cleaner. It's like you don't think about
Yeah.
whether she's a female or male, and I think that's the way we want it to be, where it doesn't matter,
Right. Absolutely.
it shouldn't
Yeah.
matter. And yet it's still, I mean, just I think in the last 5 years I've seen such a huge shift. I mean, I
Hmm.
probably think I knew maybe one female actual window cleaner, who wasn't like in the office but actually
Right.
cleaned windows, and now I can I know a couple dozen.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool because I think that's important to break down, because it's whenever you have a male dominated field, it's filled with a lot of garbage, and
Hmm.
I thought it was an interesting point that you made, how you kind of benefited from it in your specific role, because like if I were to call up a manufacturer and say, I'm going to write an article, I don't know anything about pumps, can you help me?
Right.
I
Yeah.
probably might not have got as favorable a response,
Right. I mean, I was a little 24-year-old, female.
Yeah.
I could play it to my advantage if
Yeah.
so yeah, no, it's, yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I feel like my role, and being a female in my role has actually been to my benefit. So,
Hmm.
um, helped me
Excellent.
gain more respect maybe than I would as a male. I don't know, but
Yeah. So what are your goals now? So you're with Jay Racenstein. Is that something where you're kind of happy, or you got something that you're thinking or you wanted to do in the future?
um, no, I'm happy. I try not to get too far into this. Jay Racenstein's been really great as far they know that my family has to come first, and
Sure.
uh, I plan to stay home with my kids as when they were little, but both my kids have special needs, and so
Mm.
I have to be here with them. And so Jay Racenstein, when they hired me, they told me that they understood that family is first and it's part-time, and so it works really well to my benefit. Now that said, with COVID hitting and this year just being kind of weird, I have been thinking a lot about what I want to do with the rest of my life,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so I don't know. I do some freelance work. I do a lot of volunteer work, that kind
Mhm.
of thing. Freelance, for a lot of that is for nonprofits, and that's kind of where my heart
Yeah.
is in a lot of ways. So
Awesome.
I don't know where that, if or where that'll lead to anything, but I'm enjoying, the company's great, and it's been nice to be part of a team and the way they work with me, but I'm also not sure where I want to be in 10 years,
Yeah.
or 5 years or whatever.
The people that I've talked to who have either are working or have worked with Jay Racenstein say that they're very good about that. They want to help you get to wherever you want to go. So it's like as
Absolutely.
long as
Yeah.
they have you with them, they're appreciative, but they understand that you if you need to move on, they're willing to help you. I think that's a
Right.
pretty cool
Yeah.
attitude to have.
That's what they told me coming in too, as long as it worked. And I'm happy, and I don't want to say that I'm looking for anything else. I'm just been thinking a lot about life and
Sure.
what's important to me,
Yeah.
most important. And I'm getting older, and, just want to make a difference in the world is where I'm kind of
Yeah.
at. So,
Sure. So, if you don't mind me asking, how old are your kids?
they're 15 and 17, so
15,
they're
17.
older. Yeah. My
Yeah.
son is high functioning, but he has autism. And then my
Mhm.
daughter has a autonomic condition that she's the one I really have to be here for, because I never know when she has good days and bad days. And
Gotcha.
um,
Gotcha. Yeah,
so,
I have so much respect for parents who are raising kids. I think, and I don't want to be over generalized because obviously, individuals are very different, but I felt like in my growing up, parents didn't worry about those things. It was like they expected their kids to either fall in line and be normal,
right.
or they just kind of almost fell by the wayside, and the parents didn't. And I don't think it was their fault. I just don't think there was a lot of education as to those types of
Yeah.
things. Someone who has autism, it was just they were a bad kid, or
Right.
they
Yeah.
lacked self-control, or
Right.
they needed to be fixed somehow, as opposed to understanding what they're actually dealing with and trying to understand, as to the
Right.
best that we can.
Yeah.
My daughter has ADD. She's not the hyper kind, so she's not like all over the place, but she
Right. Yeah.
definitely has a hard time with paying attention. And it is very hard for me to try and put myself in her head, because
Right.
I'm not that way. I'm very focused.
Right.
I
Hmm.
but what I do commiserate with her on is anxiety. And I grew up when I was, little. I dealt with a lot of
Hmm.
anxiety. So it's like right now she's really struggling with the remote learning, and
Hmm.
she's just, it's just torture for her, and we're trying to help her get her homework done, and every homework assignment is like a traumatic event, and it's in
Hmm.
tears, and she's falling apart, and I'm just trying to stay there because I remember being like that,
Right.
but
Yeah.
no parent was there to help me. I was just in my room crying,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
when I got done, I came out, and so I was, I keep trying to reassure her that, hey, look, I know it's hard to believe, but I was just where you are too. And guess what? I learned how to deal with it. I learned how
Yeah.
to adjust. I learned how to adapt. And life is not going to be like this. And
Right.
this, what you're learning in school, it's important, but it's not life. You're going to
Right.
be
Exactly.
fine. But it's hard for them, of course, to digest that message when they're that young. And just keep telling her, just, you're going to get there. Like you're gonna get through this.
Right. Yeah.
But so I just have so much respect for parents who deal, and then you have two, that's quite a load.
Yeah. Abby started about, it's almost 5 years ago that because she was typical child, and then had
Mhm.
this hitter, and it took us 4 years to figure out what was going on. But yeah, and I've had to change the way I handle with school with her, just because she can't do that much. And I've come to the realization that it's going to be okay. Kind of
Mhm.
like what you're saying, we'll do what we can, and it's not the end of the world. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I'm in a weird position where I have to be able to, even at this age, to um, be there for them. And I'm glad I'm able to do that.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think what you say is right, because I mean, we all have different reasons for doing what we do, right? And
Mhm.
some, they want a business because they want to make a bunch of money, and that's,
Yeah.
I don't fault anybody for that. That's what business is. That's what capitalism is,
Right.
and if you want to set up where you have income and that's your main focus and that's really all you're thinking about with the business, I think that's fine. But for me, it's always, well, what does this income get me,
Mhm.
And for right now, in this part of my life, one, it allows me freedom. So if I need to stay home, I can, typically, because now I have workers that can do work.
Mhm.
But
Right.
two, it allows my, same thing like with you, my wife can now be home for most of the time to help our
Yeah.
daughter, especially
Yeah.
more so now. It wasn't so important when she was at school, But
Right.
now, it's so important for her to be here because if she's not on her, my daughter went, my wife had to work on the phones and my daughter was in school. She did hardly any work that day. It was like 3 days of
Yeah.
extra homework to get her caught up again,
Oh,
and that's,
sure. Yeah.
that's what we're doing this whole break. We're just doing
Yeah.
homework. So
Yeah.
it allows us, if both I and my wife had to work during this time, I can't even think about what would happen to my daughter,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't know how. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the job or the business, I should say, it provides what we need at the time, and that's what it's worth it to us at this time.
Well, and that reminded me, because I kind of forgot one of the reasons I started EClean to start with too was that my husband's military, and he was deployed. I can't remember which deployment that was. It would have been Afghanistan. And I was home at the time with a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. We didn't know that Ethan had autism. We didn't know what was going on. But I was kind of in the opposite situation where I needed something beyond being a mom.
Sure.
I needed something else
Yeah.
in addition to that. So that was one of the reasons the magazine started as well.
Well, no, and that's a really, really good point, because what this job does too is it allows me to stay home and lets my wife get out of the house,
Yeah,
go do
absolutely.
something. And
Yeah.
so, if I were working in a 9 to 5, that it would be all her all the time, now I
Yeah.
usually take Tuesdays off. Today I was able to take today. Before I would always work all the holidays just because, usually customers are home and there was always people who
Right.
but I got to take today off. I'm going to take tomorrow off. I
Right.
get to be here to help her. And so for me to know my wife gets that assistance, it means the world to me. That's why I'm so appreciative and protective of my business as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's really good that the magazine was able to fill that need for you at that time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to
Yeah.
chat with me. I know it took us a little while. We had some.
Yeah. Thank you for waiting.
No, it was worth it. It was worth it. But I just really appreciate your example in the industry, and appreciate also your participation in ITF too, because we also, as we definitely, philanthropy is a big part of what we do, and we feel that education, safety is important too, but having that heart part of the work is what makes it worthwhile. So we appreciate you being a part of that.
I am. I love the group, and I'm glad you started it and that it's out there. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again, and thank you,
Yeah.
Flowmies, for listening. Hope you guys have a great week, and we will catch you later. Take care.
Thank you.